Are you locked into problems or solutions? I'm going to challenge you on today's podcast because a lot of times people would just give a knee jerk reaction saying, "Oh, I'm solution oriented." Totally. I don't focus on problems. So let's talk about fitness goals here because fitness goals fall apart when your attention stays locked into the problem instead of the response and how you're doing it. Missed workouts, low energy days, weeks that feel off track. You give your power up to what's going on at work, the long commute, whatever's happening at home. Those moments are normal, but many people they get stuck in replaying them over and over and over again. And so your mind is circling the situation instead of moving forward. And I'd love to say, gosh, I'm always looking for a solution, but it's hard to ignore the noise that sometimes happens. That's where progress slows down. Not because it's lack of effort on your part, it really is misplaced focus. And what matters most is not what happened. What matters most is what you choose next. Do you choose to get into the vortex of the drama and why this didn't work and complain and all that stuff? I know that happens to me from time to time. But I'm able now to pivot a little bit more to like, what does this have to do with my goal? What does this have to do with the solution? How do I find a solution as opposed to digging into more and more and more problems or the situation? Because when your attention stays on the situation, fitness can seem heavy and hard to do. When your attention shifts to the solution, that's where the momentum returns. It's like, okay, what can I do? So staying solution focused, I'm going to talk about that today, means it's just asking better questions, becoming radically honest with yourself. Not asking like, why did this happen? Why me? A lot of times people, will say that and they'll be like, well, there's something always happens. Something always got to give, whatever. It's just asking what's supporting forward motion next, right now. What can I take in the next logical steps? That shift, it really keeps fitness alive, even when your plate seems full and life is kind of chaotic. So we're going to talk about that today before we get into all this great stuff. If you want help simplifying your fitness approach, so solutions, stay clear, even during those busy weeks. You never have those, right? Well, head over to talktoperry.com. Let's build a plan that really responds to you and your real life and your real situations so that, hey, you can reach all of your goals. That's over at talktoperry.com. I'll drop that in the lower third here. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on, if you're listening in your podcast app, talktoperry.com is very, very easy to remember. Solutions. Simple actions. I love simple. Those protect momentum. Movement and exercise, it doesn't need to be perfect to count. I know we have certain standards that we want to accomplish there, and we want all the workouts to be spot on, so we're making the most of our time. But sometimes we need to pivot a little bit. And that's where several podcast episodes I've done, if you've been listening to the audio version, I talk about my 15-minute rule, where I realized I was not showing up for workouts because I'd be like, oh my gosh, this workout's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. I don't have that today. I've got these other things to do. And so I would promise myself I would do it the very next day or the weekend and make up for it. And I realized there's my issue right there. I am delaying things as opposed to showing up and doing what I can today. So what I did was my 15-minute rule meant I showed up and got started and did my workout, at least 15 minutes of the workout. And at the end of 15 minutes, I could call it a day. And what ended up happening was totally surprising to me. As I got into that repetition, it's not like every day I showed up for 15 minutes. It was just on those days where I was feeling low energy, had a big to-do list. Most days I was full in on the workout, 35, 40-minute workout, I'm fully doing it. But on those days I was feeling off, I said, no matter what, you're doing at least 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, you can call it a day. And almost every time I got to the 15-minute mark and I was ready to call it a day, I just kept going. I'm like, well, you only have 15, 20 minutes to go. And so I would finish it. And what that did is it created a habit. It kept the momentum going, showing up no matter what. So for you, maybe it's getting out there and taking a walk. Maybe it's scaling back on your strength work. Something that keeps you going and the progress steady and your commitment and your consistency, because the solution here is staying active, isn't it? That's what you're wanting. You're thinking of a long-term game plan. It doesn't have to match your ideal plan of what you wanted and you scripted in your head. And I found nutrition works the same way, finding ways to keep it simple. Just having a supportive meal that moves things forward. While it's easy to quick grab and go and do a drive-through, you planned a salad in there, and while that might sound boring, after a while you're like, man, this kept me going in momentum. It didn't help me get into the regret bin. Drinking water, resetting your focus, planning food ahead. If you can do a meal prep day, man, you're way ahead of the curve there. That reduces decision and it reduces stress later. The solution is nourishment, right? Not correcting or restricting or depriving yourself. Staying in solution, it also, I find this is big. It shortens your drift time. And what I mean by that is everyone has off days, right? The difference between that, where the progress is and the stagnation is how long you sit in that drift. If you can say, you know what, if you've ever done snorkeling, and if you haven't, you can imagine it. Your face is down in the water. You're looking underneath and looking at all the amazing life. Well, there's a current that's happening, a drift. And so if you don't peak up from time to time, you could drift way off track and be like, oh my gosh, I have to swim a long, long way to get back to shore. But if you peak from time to time, you can course correct. That's the same thing for fitness there. The solution is resuming, not restarting. Don't keep starting over. That's deflating. Another one action today. That's what protects your identity. Many people, they think they need motivation to move forward. Wrong answer. What they need is direction. Clear decisions, that's what removes the debate. When your decision's made ahead of time, actions become easier. And so that was one thing that I did with my decision. Remember, I told you that I was having a tough time starting my workout, and I did my 15-minute plan. What I did on the front of that was I realized after a long day of work, an hour commute home, trying to talk myself out of working out, I was telling myself, I just need to sit down, relax for a while, unwind, get motivated, de-stress from the day. And that time after I got home and sat down and relaxed, it brought about more sluggishness, laziness, not motivating at all, even though it was motivating in my talk on my way home because I was looking forward to just sitting and chilling for a while. I removed that. I swapped it out and said, decision is when I get home, I help the dogs, and then I go and get my workout clothes on, and then I start my workout. Non-negotiable. That was it. And so the decision was made ahead of time. There was no negotiating. I would get home and it's like, okay, you're showing up for your workout. Boom, boom. Take care of the dogs, get the workout going, and commit to at least the 15 minutes. If I had that extra stuff going on, that's what kept the fitness consistent for now almost 24 years. Even when your energy is shifting, even when your days are busy, take a look at your environment too. Having your clothes ready, food's decided, your time's protected. My gosh, that should feel totally liberating, right? Because when your environment supports movement and the nutrition, this thing called willpower, it becomes unnecessary. You don't have to do that, right? So another key part I found is just staying in the solution, especially with your language. Instead of saying, I fell off track, I need to start again. Here's a common one. I fell off the wagon, need to get back on. What if there was no wagon? You don't have to. Instead of saying that you fell off, just say, you know what? I'm choosing the next step. I'm just working out again. I'm working, I'm doing my best, forgetting the rest, like Tony Horton said. Keep fitness connected to your identity. That's what it does. Staying in the solution, it does not mean that you're ignoring challenges. They're there. It just means you're refusing to let it decide what happens next. If you were going down the rapids or kind of maybe even a gentle drift down the river, there's going to be some obstacles with a tree or with some rocks or whatever it is. It's not like they're there, but you can navigate around them, right? You get to decide what happens next. If you want to crash into them, I suppose that's the decision too, right? Fitness stays strong when responses stay simple instead of being reactive, right? Staying in the solution, you're keeping your fitness moving, even when those conditions outside of you are not ideal. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. You could drop those down in the comments. I so appreciate you. I will reply. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find this show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.